Hello, everyone. My name's Jason Bass, and I'm giving you a impromptu speech on why college athletes should get paid. This is literally off the top of my head. I did nothing more than look up the topics that he posted on this site. So here we go. College, everyone goes to. Some get the pleasure of playing sports, and they get to do things that other people don't. Maybe more academically uh, successful in those things. Maybe just an athlete that gets to get in and gets a scholarship. Whatever you're in, I believe that the colleges themselves, they make millions and millions of dollars off of student athletes. Every year they're turning profit off of athletes. And athletes risk everything into that. They they play endless games, and they balance school, and they continue to do it. And I do this not playing games but going to work and having a family, and it's struggle just for me. I couldn't imagine not being able to really make money off something that I'd be really good at. So for instance, if I was in college and I could get a Nike deal, I think it's my right as a person that I should be able to sign and get the Nike deal. But most colleges deem that if they do this, they forfeit scholarships, which I feel is unfair. Why? Because that dollar will slowly dwindle out of that school or out of the collegiate sports totally. Dick Vitale brought up an interesting point when I watched March Madness this year. He's decided that like Zion Williamson, for instance, for Duke, he's a star athlete, star basketball player. He's definitely going in the NBA. He's going to make millions, but he could already be making millions. He could already be making money, and they'll allow him to work at McDonald's, but they won't allow him to sign with Gatorade. And I find that that is unfair to so many athletes. And these are just examples that I've heard of, and I'm sure there's countless more. But for instance, the idea of what Dick was saying was that you can allow a player to still make his money, and it shouldn't really dictate what happens to the team. As long as he's there for the team and it's not about the money, and they can make maybe a cap limit on how much they get per year annually. So you don't want them to get boundless, endless amounts of money. That's understandable. They need to be able to manage that. So maybe instead you put a cap limit on what they can actually get paid, and Nike can sign that deal, and it helps the player out, and it doesn't really dictate what they're doing on the court. I think that's logical and fair. A lot of people argue that if you pay any kind of players any kind of money, it takes the sport out of it. But in reality, the colleges are all about the money. They're making the money. They're cutting corners. They're cutting scholarships. If the player gets hurt, he gets nothing. He's cut off. I mean, that's very unfair. It's very unrealistic. There's thousands of players every year that get hurt and can never continue a career, and most of them won't even go pro anyways. So they're brought in with these false hopes, and they're pushed to these limits, and they push their body to their limits, and they max out everything, and they do all they can to benefit these colleges, and these colleges make that revenue off the money, off the viewing of the games, and how well these student athletes do. So in my opinion, I once again stand firm that I believe that not only should they get paid, they should be able to sign up for it. There's so much money in this that really just goes unwasted. Even if you can't pay them in cash, maybe you make sure that they're set up for the long haul. They get a master's degree out of the scholarship. It don't just end when they get 4 years in and they can no longer play sports. Make sure there's stipulations in all of it. If they get hurt, they're still covered. That should absolutely happen. They risk everything for the colleges. They do everything to go to college. They work their butts off, and then they're getting unrewarded when it's right there for them to grab. I feel that it's unfair. I think that if you were given the opportunity to sign your name or go show up for an event and get paid thousands of dollars because you've worked so hard to this point, and you're told by an administrator that if you do that, you can no longer go to school here, I believe you'd feel that's an infringement on your rights as a person. So if you think of it in that logic, as if, say your boss says you can no longer go to this restaurant because you work at McDonald's, you're going to feel like they're infringing on what you're allowed to do. They're dictating now what you can or can't do. Well, that's what's happening in college sports every day. It's very unfair. Some of these kids are eating ramen noodles, however you pronounce it. They're eating noodles every day for lunch. They don't have money. They can get a job at McDonald's that's allowed, but they don't pay much. I've been in the workforce. That is not a great job. It's a good start job, but I mean, really, you want to work through college, you're going to have to juggle night shifts. I mean, it's just not that's not logical when they have something right there at their fingertips. And beyond that, most of the time the colleges persuade players in with money. So to me, if they were able to get that money, the person may make a decision on what college they want to go because that's the college they want to go to. The money wouldn't play because there's money influences. It does. So if somebody could be influenced to go to, say, Kentucky over Duke, that helps Kentucky. But in reality, if they were able to say, I'm this good because I've worked to get to this point, I deserve the Nike deal because I worked for it. At that point, it no longer matters what college they go to. They can represent themselves and their college and the college of their choice, which would be even more, an urge to represent them. So that's my improv speech. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. I hope it persuaded you all into my belief on this. And thanks again.